The purpose of this video is to give you a look at what you will experience in ALEKS after completing your initial registration for ALEKS up through your first initial knowledge check. When you log into ALEKS for the first time after registering for your course, the first thing you're going to see is a brief welcome message here that gives you just a little bit of a tutorial about ALEKS's adaptive nature and its personalized features. We'll click Next here to start that tutorial. And so the general idea of ALEKS, unlike other traditional homework systems, is it's going to figure out what you know, and it's going to use what you know in conjunction with the content in the course to create a personalized learning path for you to go through that content. What does that really mean? It means that ALEKS is unique in that it's not going to ask you a bunch of homework questions that are too easy for you, that are going to waste your time. It's also not going to ask you a bunch of homework questions that are too hard for you. Instead, it's going to ask you questions that you are ready to learn. The reason for this process is to enhance your chances of success and improve the learning that occurs. So let's go ahead now that we've seen this little tutorial, and we'll go ahead and click Get Started. The first thing that you're going to see whenever you get to a new area in ALEKS are some on-screen hints. So for example, this particular hint is pointing out that our main menu is over here on the left-hand side. We won't really explore that main menu in today's session, but we will in subsequent future videos. But go ahead and pay attention to the little tutorials that it gives you. Read through them, make sure you understand what they're saying, and then click Next to see the next one. So in this case, it's also going to tell us that the little bell in the upper right-hand corner here are some notifications for us. To be things like approaching due dates for assignments, grades, etc. And then finally, it's going to point out the most important area of the course, and that's sort of the what's up next. What should I do based on what ALEKS knows about where I am in the course? And this is kind of going to be your starting point for a majority of the assignments and tasks that we complete in ALEKS, as you'll see in this and subsequent videos. So I'm just going to hit Next here. ALEKS suggests that the first thing that we ought to do is take a tools tutorial. And it says to go ahead and click the Get Started button, so let's do that. This is going to teach us about the various functions and tools in ALEKS, the first of which is going to be how to enter information in various types of questions in ALEKS. And so we'll look at a couple examples here in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to point out a couple of things on the screen. First and foremost, at the top of the screen, you see a progress bar here. This tells you how many questions you have left. To complete a particular task, you have to fill that progress bar. The other thing I'm going to point out is that down at the bottom here you see a button that says Skip Tutorial. As a student, you won't have that button. That's an instructor-only feature, so don't be looking for that button. But it's going to guide us through now how to enter some answers here. And it says it wants us to type in the little blue box 14, so we'll go ahead and do that. Then it wants us to clear that answer, delete it by hitting the X key, so let's go ahead and do that. And you notice the answer went away. And now it wants us to use this little left arrow button to undo that, and so we will, and the answer has returned. And so this is just basic entry tools in ALEKS, and now it wants us to hit Next to go to the next example. So let's look at one more. Take a second to load here. Now it wants us to use one of the templates. This happens to be the fraction template, so we'll go ahead and click on that. Notice that our answer entry box changed here to that fraction template. It wants us to put 2 in the top box, so we'll do that. And then we're supposed to click in the bottom box, and we're supposed to type a 3. And again, it wants us to hit Next. And you'll notice, we'll go ahead and click Next, that our progress bar here is filling up in terms of showing us how to use different tools in ALEKS. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and skip forward in the tutorial, but you should take time to complete all of these tutorial items so that you know how to enter all of the various question types and data in ALEKS. And don't worry if you don't remember every single one, as you'll have access to review this tutorial at any time. So let's go ahead and skip forward here. At the end of the tools tutorial, ALEKS is going to teach you how to use its own built-in calculator. And again, you should work through the prompts here. One of the cool things about the ALEKS calculator, we'll go ahead and type in 1 here as we were instructed. And then we're going to hit the division button. And now, one of the cool things about the calculator is you have access to a lot of different things, including atomic masses, as you can see here, from our built-in periodic table. In this case, we're going to use carbon. And so when I click on that, you notice that the atomic mass of carbon appears. Now it wants me to close this. And then another thing that's pretty cool is you have access to constants. And so in this case, we expand the list, and you get a list of constants. And you can click on Avogadro's number. And then we're going to close our list, and we're going to hit equal here. And so we're going to find out what the answer is. And so we get this very long number. And it suggests perhaps that we don't see all the number equally or easily. So let's, it's the E here for engineering notation. Let's put that in scientific notation. So let's hit the psi button, and that's probably a number that's easier to read, a number we might recognize. And so this is just one example here again of how to use the calculator. You're welcome to use the calculator in ALEKS. It has some of those cool features I've just shown you with the constants and the periodic table, etc. But you're also welcome to use your own personal calculator. And as a matter of fact, I will share that if it was me and I was doing a problem in ALEKS, I would definitely use my personal calculator just because I'm more comfortable with that calculator than I am with the on-screen calculator in ALEKS. But either is an option. There are a couple other calculator problems here that you should practice and calculator functions, but again, in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and skip forward on that. One of the other things ALEKS does a lot is gives you some feedback and some congratulations, as you see on the screen here, for completing various aspects of the course. So I've completed my tools tutorial. Of course, I skipped, so I don't really deserve my congratulations here, but we'll take them. And we'll go ahead and click continue. ALEKS is now going to bring us to what is called our initial knowledge check. ALEKS uses knowledge checks to figure out what we know periodically throughout the course. Think about this as like going to the doctor for a physical every year. You kind of get an update on your health. This is going to give you an update on your content knowledge. This is how ALEKS makes sure that it's asking you questions that you are ready to learn, not questions that are too easy or too hard. So periodically throughout the course, you're going to have to complete these as a required component of the course. And in order to begin our course, we have to give it a place to start. So we have to do one of these knowledge checks. So let's go ahead and click the Start the Knowledge Check button here. And it's going to open up and it's going to give us a tutorial here about knowledge checks. And it's going to point out a couple of very important things here. First and foremost, this initial knowledge check is going to be somewhere between 20 and 25 questions. 20 and 25 questions. And here's a little rule for you. Don't spend too much time on any one of these questions. I generally say 5 minutes per question maximum. Don't spend more than 5 minutes on any one of these questions. At the end of 5 minutes, submit whatever answer you have and move on. This means that the whole process should take you somewhere between an hour and an hour and a half approximately to complete. If you're spending more time on that, you're spending too much time. Now, it is important to take the initial knowledge check very seriously because it affects the amount of homework and the amount of work you have in the course. So some tips and tricks, some things to know. First of all, do this in a space where you are not going to be distracted. Put the cell phone away. Make sure you're not going to be interrupted for the period of time while you are working. Second thing that you should know here is you are going to want a pencil and some paper at minimum so that you have some scratch paper on which to work out some of the problems. There's going to be some math here. I also, if you feel more comfortable, would recommend your personal calculator. Again, you'll have the calculator in ALEKS when it's necessary, but I recommend your personal calculator if you're more comfortable with that. Okay? And so just a couple of things. And then here's an illustration. Again, I said, this can impact how much you have left in your course when you finish the initial knowledge check. You notice on the left, the green side of the screen here, the student did really well in their initial knowledge check, followed all the instructions we just gave. They got 80 topics in their course left. Of course, on the right, not so much, 110 topics. That's a 30-topic swing. It's a significant difference. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. The first thing you're going to see when you get started here is this little sample screen tutorial. It's kind of going to give you a layout of the land of what you're going to see when you start the initial knowledge check in a minute. The question box is going to be here, and there's a question you can see underlying here. We can't answer this question because it's just a little tutorial. On the right are going to be any ALEKS tools that you'll need. Most commonly, the calculator. Okay. There's also access under this question mark to the tools tutorial you just completed if you forget how to enter a question answer. And then, of course, you have some submission options down here in the lower left, and you have two of them. One is submit. That's the preferred option. That means I tried the question, I submitted it, grade my answer. The other one is I don't know what to do, I'm not sure what to do. Avoid the I don't know as much as possible, because as soon as you click the I don't know button, it's going to add that topic to your course as something you need to learn. My recommendation is go ahead and spend the max of 5 minutes on the question. At 5 minutes, if you still aren't sure, you really have no clue, go ahead and click I don't know. Otherwise, at the end of 5 minutes, go ahead and submit whatever answer you have. You might surprise yourself and actually get the question right. The only way to know is to try. A note about getting the question right. ALEKS is not going to tell you when you submit in this initial knowledge check if your question is right or wrong. It's simply going to adjust the content behind the scenes, so be aware of that. Now that we've got an idea of what this looks like, let's go ahead and hit start our initial knowledge check. And so it's going to bring up our first question. Again, at the top of the screen is this progress bar. So we want to fill that bar to complete our initial knowledge check. The tools are over here on the right. Again, it's showing you that. You do not have to click on the Show Me Tools tutorial again if you don't want to, but it'll bring you to the tools tutorial. You can't get rid of the box without opening it, so I guess go ahead and click Show Me. It'll bring you here, but then you can go ahead and just hit Escape to get back out of that and start looking at the question, or you can play through the tutorial. I just hit Escape. Again, you won't have the Skip Knowledge Check button down here in the lower right-hand corner. But you will have the two submissions in the lower left, I don't know, and submit. And again, focus on the submit button. And so you'll notice here this is a math question. A lot of the questions in the initial knowledge check are somehow math themed. There's only a few chemistry and a few physics types questions. So go ahead and answer them to the best of your ability. Again, spend no more than 5 minutes on each question. I'm going to go ahead in the interest of time, instead of answering these questions, go ahead and hit skip the tutorial, skip the knowledge check here. And I'm just going to, so you can kind of see what happens at the end, I'm just going to say, well, I don't have very much in the way of chemistry knowledge. Again, you won't have this skip option. It's only an instructor option, but I'm going to go ahead and click that just so you can see what it looks like at the end. And so at the end, you're going to get this sort of results screen. And what you see here is sort of like a pie. And the shaded portion, the colored portion of each slice sort of shows what you know in there. And then the gray sections, these sections out here, that's what we still have left to learn in our pie. And so you'll notice that I learned 27 of 224 topics in this course, or 12%. I have 197 remaining that I will learn and attempt to master as the course goes on. You can also see what each shading color means in terms of a topic. And you'll have access to this pie. It's central to your course throughout the process. So let's go ahead now and click Continue. And when you click Continue, you will now be brought to your home screen. And so we'll come back to the left in here in a second. I'm just going to scroll over a bit so that we can see the right-hand side of the screen. So you've got two tabs. You've got the ALEKS Pie portion, That's looking at this pie that we were just talking about, except now you see all the slices and all the sections labeled, and it tells you how many topics remain in each one. So there's that pie. And you can click on that pie slice to get more info here. And so we've got more information about what we know and what we don't know, etc. You can also click on a timeline preview. And the timeline preview will show you how many topics you have left here on Monday. And throughout the week, it will show you what your goal is through the timeline feature. And you can scroll over and click on these little markers and etc. Sorry about that. Ultimately, Alex on the left-hand side, again, is going to say, what's up next? What do I have to do? What should I do? What's next? So you notice our first assignment, which is the review module, Objective 1 and Objective 2 is the material in that assignment. That's due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. And it allows us here to click and get started on our path. And so if we click that button, it'll bring up the questions in that topic and allow us to begin working on that. And we'll actually look at the layout of the assignment screen in a future video. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you found this helpful.